Hi students. Today I'm going to take you into the basics of a concept we call transposition. And this is simply changing the key of a song and replicating it in that new key. Now, why would you have to do this? Well, if you find a song you want to sing, for example, I'm a soprano, so I can sing things that are fairly high, but it might be too high or too low. And so I'd want to put it in a different key if it was too low, so it would be in my vocal range. Now, when you buy sheet music off the internet at like sheetmusicdirect.com, it will automatically do it. You can set it to transpose it, but I'm going to teach you the old-fashioned way and show you how you can do it for a melody. Now, say we take something like this old folk song. Old mountain song from Kentucky, down in the valley. And we say, this is a little high, so we need to put it into a key signature that we can sing. Now you can sit here and fiddle around with it and try to transpose it by ear, but this is going to be a foolproof way. If you do it correctly, you don't even have to play it first. So we're looking at this, and this is in G major. See if I can move my computer a little bit so I don't fall off the screen. So the first thing you want to do is draw out the key signature. Now you may have a familiarity with whether it's in major or minor. I've played through this. I am reasonably sure that we are in G major, and especially since we have the chord symbols. And I'll show you how to deal with that in a moment. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write out our G major key signature and our scale. So we've got that. We've got our key signature there. And then we're going to write out the unique tones 1 through 7. Let's clean up D here so it's a little nicer, a little less ambiguous. And now we are going to number these steps 1 through 7. Okay, so this gives us a way to identify what's going on with the song. Now I can hold it right here. Now, regardless of whether it's high or low, we're going to see a low D and a high D, but both of them are labeled as a 5. So we're going to have a consideration of whether something's low or high in what we call the melodic curve. So this starts on a 5, 1, 2, 3, 3, 5, 2, 5, 7, 2, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we've identified that because we drew out our scale. You want to respect whether something is low or high and duplicate that same curve when you go to move this melody to another key. It does matter, because if you know this and you start playing, that doesn't sound quite right based on what we just played. High D, so you can see where we have this melodic curve going this way, then down, up, across, down. We want to duplicate that in our transposition. So say we're going to go to E flat. We like E flat, don't we? Actually, let's make a challenge and go to E major. So we're going to draw out the key signature and the scale. This is important. You want to have both. When you get to the homework assignment, I believe it is homework 7, where you have a transposition exercise, which ought to tell you that it's also on the final exam, you're going to be asked for both the old scale and the new scale, as well as numbering the original melody before you write the transposition. So it's important to write all of these out. So we write 1 through 7. Now we can set up our transposition because we've mapped out which tones of the scale appear in what place. So we have 3/4 time, and we know we have a 5, 1, 2, 3, low 5, 1, 2, 3, then we go up to a high 5 and draw 5 of those, just like we have in the original. Then we go to a 2. Are you with me so far? So then we have to replicate the curve in the next phrase of the song. This is also a good opportunity to teach you a little bit about form, because form implies some sort of repetition or a question-answer format where you can hear it going on in the music. And I'll do that again. So 5, 5, 7, 2, 5, 5. So we're going to recreate this here. 5, 7, 2, 5, 5. Now you see why I want you to practice your handwriting on some manuscript paper, especially if you are using an electronic stylus to complete your homework. So then we see 4, 3, 2, 1. So let's check our work. The original all right, so now we're playing our transposition. So if you've done the back end work, which is the old scale and the new scale, and putting the scale degree numbers in the original, you should be able to replicate it. I can often tell if you haven't done this. One thing that gets a lot of people in trouble is that they assume that all melodies begin with 1. And I purposely chose this because it did not begin with scale step 1. So you have to get to your key signature. You have to figure out whether you're in major or minor, then play through it a bit. And if I look at my scale, that begins with scale degree 5. Okay, you could do this for any key. I could do a couple more examples, but I want to work with accidentals because we have a separate way of marking those, and I will show you that now. So say we get this little melody. I goofed up. That should make you feel really happy, by the way. So how do we handle accidentals? I'm going to take some shortcuts because I've done the work. I know what key signatures are what, but I've played this. It's in a major key. So say I want to go to B flat. If I know my trusty circle of fifths, I know that there are 2 flats in B flat minor, but C major, 1, 3, 5, 5. If I'm in C major and it starts on C, there's your scale step 1. When you get comfortable after working with the scales, sometimes you could drop them out, but right now I would write out the scales of both your old key and your new key, just until you get comfortable doing it. Okay? So I know that this is 1, 3, 5, 5, 4, 3. 1, 3, 5, 5. Now I've got a raised 4, so we're going to indicate this with an upward arrow. And that has to be for every incident of the raised or sometimes lowered note within a measure. So if we had 2 quarter notes, they would both be marked as raised 4. Then we have 5. Then we have this high 1. And here we go with scale step 7. And that one's been lowered, so you guessed it, use a downward facing arrow. 6, 5, 4, 3, 4, 2, 5, 5, 1. So B flat, you would number your scale. We're gonna recreate this. If you don't write in the scale degrees, you risk getting in trouble. So while you're learning this, do everything. Okay? At some point you may be able to let that backward go, but you want to learn the concept. I've done the work because last time I checked, I graduated with my music degree. We have a raised 4, then a lowered 7, I wrote my numbers very high, so I'm going to notate it up here. Then I can go through, because I know if I'm in B flat major, B is 1. So I'm going to fill this in. Oops, that looks crummy. And so does that one. May have graduated, but sometimes I'm sloppy. But now I hope that you appreciate why I'm having you do some of this work by hand. You may use a composition program, music printing with your final composition, but if you had to make corrections in a rehearsal, you probably wouldn't put them on the electronic version of the score. You'd mark it on the pen and paper version and then go back and put them in the computer. So this is why we practice with this. So now we have raised 4. So if step 4 is E flat, we know that raised 4 is going to be E natural. And that's a natural sign. Let me make that a little more clear. So they don't have to use a teacher to copy translator. That's why another reason why you practice is because if someone came and picked up your handwritten score, they'd know exactly what you were talking about, at least for the technical aspect of the notes. The interpretive part may be different. Okay, so here's raised 4, 5. We're going to put this high 1, see that part of the curve? Lowered 7, A flat, 6, 5, 4, back to the normal 4 for B flat major, 4, 2, 5, 5, 1. Okay, so here's the original. Now we can play the B flat major version. And I think that for one more, just to show you the possibilities for your accidentals, I have to be careful with this. I'm going to take it down to F sharp major. We'll get our 6, sharps. Let me see, do I have anything in this? No, I'm trying to find a sharper pencil. So we have to duplicate it. 1, 3, 5, 5, 4, 3, 1, 3, 5, 5, raised 4, 5, the high 1, lowered 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 4, 2, 5, 5, 1. All right, so here we go. F sharp, scale step 1 is F sharp. Then A sharp, that's 2 quarter notes. I hope you know that. Then B is our scale step 4. One, 3, 5, 5. Raised 4 is going to be B sharp. And again, remember when I said this B sharp was a special case, it will go to C sharp. So those are important. Now, F sharp is our 1, lowered 7. Since E sharp is in the key signature, this is where we use a natural sign. We just fill in all the notes. B sharp, C sharp, E natural, Okay, so that's a bit about transposing a melody. So before you add accidentals, check and see if that note is affected by the key signature. If it is, then you have to compensate. For example, lowering scale step 7 from E sharp to E natural. Sometimes, for all I know, you could use a double sharp or double flat. You got to make sure you're using the correct one. Now, let's go back to Down in the Valley for a moment, because we've got some chord markings, and I want to show you how this translates to Roman numerals. Because this is out of an old auto harp book that was used in the schools when I went through, and it was ancient then. Okay, so you had an auto harp, you had little stops, and you strummed the strings, and even non-musicians could play it. So this is explaining this. So say you have G in G major. Let's go back to here. If we had chord symbols, we would know that this is a 1. Then we know 2 and 3 would be minor. 4, 5, 6, 7. So you know that those scale degrees have those associated chord qualities when you build a triad on them. So let's go to our transposition and do the same thing. Now, to be fair, a lot of the lead sheets, like I've talked about in class, well, I talked about in piano class, where you just have the melody and the chord, like you do here, they don't always use Roman numerals. We use Roman numerals in theory to address function. So if someone's just playing guitar, oh, play a G chord, play a D chord, they may not be thinking about harmonic function like we're doing in this class. And as I've said many times before, this prepares you for Theory 2, which is addressing music written between 1750 and 1825, what rules they wind up applying to that music. So we've got our chord symbols, so we know that our chord that we're playing here is an E chord, and we have a new chord here. Ah, look at that, 7th chord. We just learned about those. But we see that in the original, a D7 was a 5 chord, so in the new key, the 5 chord is associated with B major. So this is a little bit about transposing. The best way to get going with this is to just go do it. Find some little melodies. They might be folk songs, nursery rhymes, or hymns, or whatever. You can practice transposing those, making those scale degrees for both the old and the new keys, also the chord symbols, and just go to town. I'm going to throw a practice one your way for extra credit, help you prepare for the homework. Okay? So I'll see you on the discussion forums.